Hello, this is Martin from My Tutor Business. In this video I'm going to talk about how to get started as a private tutor, and specifically 10 tips which I think are important to set up your business the right way and ensure success for the future. The first thing I think you should do is come up with a business plan. Now while you might think, well, surely business plans are only for bank managers and so on who might want who want to give out loans to businesses, small businesses and so on. And you might think, well, if I'm a home tutor, I don't need any money really. It's quite a low cost sort of business to get started. Well, that's true. I think a business plan will enable you to come up with some key questions for your business, some key things to think about, and some goals. And I think if you have some goals written down, for example, in 6 months' time, a year, 2 years, and so on, then you're far more likely to stick to these sort of goals and aims if you have it written down in a sort of coherent plan. Some of these important questions which you need to address when you're coming up with your business plan. How much competition is there in your local area? Do people have money? Certain towns and cities have more affluent or wealthier areas than others, and you need to find a way to target these areas in order to charge sort of higher prices for your lessons and so on. And is there enough demand for lessons in your subject? I think usually there is. If you're teaching popular instruments like the piano and guitar, or popular subjects like maths and English, then I think even in small towns you can find a lot of students. But if you're teaching a less popular instrument, a less popular subject, it might be a bit trickier. But you've always got online as an option. You can always widen the net, so to speak, and teach online to find more students. One of the next things to consider is the teaching environment. You need to create the sort of right environment for your students when they come to your home for lessons. It should be neat and tidy. I mean, that goes without saying. And they should be able to walk into the room where you're conducting your lessons and feel, oh, this is the right environment for me to learn in or to play an instrument. You should dress to impress as well. I think, you might feel, if I'm teaching at home, I could just wear baggy jeans or a creased t-shirt or something, but no, I think you're the face of your business, so I think you should, dress appropriately to create the right impression and so on with your students. Quiet location, yep, that's important. You might, if you live with other household members, then you don't want them to disturb your lessons, so make sure where you're teaching your lessons is nice and quiet. Having the right equipment is obviously essential for your business. I think whether you're teaching a musical instrument or an academic subject, you still need fast internet access, a laptop or tablet. You want to be able to go to sites like YouTube to show some guys playing an instrument, or maybe there's some online tutorials about an academic subject which you think your students might enjoy. Maybe there's some online games or quizzes and so on. So in this day and age, fast internet access goes without saying. Books, stationery and other materials. My students often forget their books, so I often have spares, and I think that's important. You want to have your textbooks, exercise books, pens, pencils and so on. Again, it looks professional, doesn't it, to your student that you're prepared, you've got all the right equipment and so on. Ah yes, getting paid. I think my golden rule for getting paid as a tutor is don't be a soft touch. I think if you start being too flexible with your payment terms, you'll make things much more difficult in the long run. I suggest asking your students to pay for a block of lessons rather than on a lesson-by-lesson basis. You could even offer a small discount to encourage your students to pay for a group of lessons. I think having a cancellation policy is essential for any tutor, in my opinion. Although I do know some tutors who don't have anything at all. If a student cancels, so be it. It's missed income. But I think if you're either running a part-time tutoring business or you want to do it full-time, I think a well-constructed cancellation policy is essential for avoiding problems and awkward situations with your students. Just write a policy and give it to your student during or before your first lesson. If a student has paid for a block of lessons in advance, it'll make things a lot easier, as you won't have to chase any payment for missed lessons. So basically it protects your income, having a cancellation policy. Now unless you've got more students than you can handle, I'd strongly recommend setting up a website for your tutoring business. And this is so students can find you online, and it's another way to sort of show your credentials as a tutor. People can sort of learn about you and see what you're like as a teacher just from a website. When it comes to designing one, yes, you can hire a web designer. That's great if you've got the budget for it. Or you can try and do it yourself. And I'd recommend this if you can. If you're confident enough to try it yourself, I'd certainly give it a go, because if you ever want to update any content or anything on your website, if you use a web designer, you've got to contact them every time and say, look, can you do this for me? Can you do that for me? Whereas if you do it yourself, if you designed it yourself, then it's a lot simpler. There are various tutorials and so on which can really help with you. YouTube videos which can really help with designing websites. One key thing though, if you regardless of whether you use a web designer or do it yourself, is to make sure it's mobile responsive, your website. That basically means your website will display perfectly on a cell phone, on a tablet, and on a desktop PC. You've probably seen those websites when you look on your phone and nothing fits. It's like the text is tiny. There's still quite a few sites like that. That's a bit of a turn-off, I think, if you're visiting a website. So if a student sees a tutoring website which doesn't fit on their phone properly, they'll likely leave, and that's a potentially lost student. One thing that's often overlooked when setting up a tutoring business is insurance. But it's very, very important to get some public liability insurance. This is basically to protect yourself if there's an incident. Okay, it's extremely unlikely, but if your pupil comes to your lesson and they trip over a bag or something and hit their head on a table, I think little things like this, they're very unlikely. You need some protection, because who's responsible in that case? So make sure you get some public liability insurance. I know in the UK we have the Musicians Union, which if you're a member of that, then you automatically get public liability insurance. So maybe in your own country there's certain unions you can join which offer this as a sort of a bonus for joining their union. Time to find those students. Now, promotion and marketing, in my opinion, is the hardest part of running a tutoring business. I see so many sort of posts on forums and so on when people say, oh, how did you get started and so on, and often the response is, oh, just word of mouth, referrals and so on. But I just don't think in this modern age that works, that's sufficient, because unless you've got a large number already, the chance of you getting referrals is quite slim. And there's more competition, there's more ways to find students. You need to be a lot more active. So you need a proper marketing strategy which involves online and offline methods to find students. Teaching at home. Yeah, I strongly recommend this, or at least in a fixed location somewhere, rather than where your student lives. The reason I came to this conclusion is based on my own experience, really. When I was a student, I'd finish my lectures and drive across town to teach piano to a few pupils each week. I was really enthusiastic. I thought it was brilliant. I was earning some money doing something I really, really loved, while my friends were, working in a student union bar or something. But so I accepted every student who approached me for piano lessons. However, after a bit of time, I started to realise, I was stuck in traffic a lot. I was doing quite a bit of driving, and suddenly, when I worked out what I'm actually earning per lesson, it's not actually as good as I thought. So the reality is, time is money, and you can waste a lot of time travelling to students' locations, and money as well. You waste money on petrol, on fuel, and so on. So it's something to really think about. It can be quite stressful and frustrating rushing around to all your students' locations, when in reality it's more comfortable to teach at home, and you can fit more lessons in as well. You can teach more, so actually you can earn more as well as a result. Of course, sometimes it can't be avoided. If you're teaching a younger pupil particularly, the parents might feel much more comfortable if you came to their place. In that case, up to you. You could still do the lesson, Well, I'd certainly increase your fee if you do this, just to offset the cost of um, fuel and so on, and the time it takes to travel to lessons. Okay, the last tip I want to share with you today is how, in my opinion, you should try and book lessons back to back rather than leaving big gaps between them. Obviously you want to break from time to time, but if you can sort of book a few in a row, so when one student leaves there's another one arriving, it kind of shows your professionalism as a teacher, and that there's demand for your lessons. You're, a well-respected and sought-after teacher. And I think just by creating this impression, even if you only have a few students, I think you can increase the chance that you'll gain referrals from your existing pupils. Okay, that's it. Thank you very much for listening to this video. You've just learnt 10 tips for starting a tutoring business. There's obviously others as well, other things you need to consider, but they're sort of 10 factors I think which are very important to set up your business the right way. If you'd like any more advice on running a tutoring business, take a look at my website, www.mytutorbusiness.com. On this site you'll discover everything you need to start, build and grow your own tutoring business. If you're on YouTube you can click the link below, and thank you very much.